We've all been there, right? You try to make some huge, life-altering change, and a few weeks later, you're right back where you started. But what if the secret to getting incredible results wasn't about some massive, heroic effort? What if it was about something a lot smaller? Well, that's the whole idea behind James Clear's game-changing book, Atomic Habits. And we're going to break down its most powerful lessons right now.
37 times. That's a pretty big number, isn't it? Well, get this. That's how much better you can get at literally anything in just 1 year, if you improve by a tiny, almost invisible 1% each day. It sounds kind of crazy, but the math behind compounding is this powerful, invisible force that's always at work. So this brings us to our first big idea, the truly surprising power of those tiny 1% gains. We're all wired to look for that one big moment, that dramatic transformation. But real, lasting change, it almost never works that way.
Okay, now look at this, because this chart explains exactly why most of us quit. We expect our progress to be a nice, neat, straight line, right? But in the real world, the most powerful growth is delayed. You put in the work for days, weeks, maybe even months, and you see, well, pretty much nothing. This gap between what we think should happen and what actually happens is what James Clear calls the valley of disappointment. And it's the critical spot where most people give up, usually right before the results are about to take off like a rocket. This quote, which the San Antonio Spurs basketball team famously loves, just captures that idea perfectly. Success isn't about that one final dramatic hit. It's the sum of all the little taps that came before it, especially all the ones that felt like they weren't doing a single thing.
And all this talk about accumulating effort, well, it leads to a pretty radical idea. If you want better results, you should forget about setting goals, and instead, focus on your systems. Just think about it for a second. Winners and losers, they often have the exact same goals. I mean, every single athlete at the Olympics wants to win a gold medal. Every startup founder wants to build a billion-dollar company. The goal itself isn't what makes the difference. It's the system, that daily process of practice, of showing up, of refining. That's what makes all the difference. As Clear says so perfectly, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems.
But building a system, it actually takes us somewhere even deeper. See, the most powerful way to change your habits for good is to change your identity. The goal isn't just to read a book, it's to become a reader. It's not just to run a marathon, it's to become a runner. When your habits are literally a part of who you are, you stop fighting for motivation, because you're just being yourself.
So how? How do we actually do this stuff? How do we build these systems that shape our identity? Well, Clear gives us this beautifully simple, super practical framework he calls the 4 laws of behavior change. So these 4 steps, the cue, the craving, the response, and the reward, this is the hidden engine running every single habit you have, good or bad. So to build a good habit, you just have to make the cue obvious, the craving attractive, the response easy, and the reward satisfying. Now, for this explainer, we're going to zero in on 2 of the absolute game changers, making good habits obvious and making them easy. All right, first up, make it obvious. This is all about designing your environment. Why? Because our surroundings are like an invisible hand shaping our choices way more than we could ever imagine. This quote from an economist, it just nails it. We love to think we're in complete control of our decisions, but really, we're constantly being influenced by what's right there in front of us. The good news, though, we can totally use this to our advantage. And this is a brilliant example. So researchers at a hospital wanted people to drink more water. They didn't put up posters or try to convince anybody. They just made water more obvious. They added water stations all over the cafeteria, and the result was incredible. Water sales shot up by over 25%, and soda sales dropped. They changed the environment, and behavior changed automatically. Zero willpower needed. Okay, so if making a good habit obvious is the first step, the next huge one is making it easy. So easy that it's almost inevitable. This taps into a basic truth about all of us. Human nature will always, always follow the path of least resistance. So there's this fantastic story about a photography professor who divided his class into 2 groups. The quantity group, he told them, would be graded only on the sheer number of photos they submitted. The quality group, on the other hand, only had to turn in 1 single photo, but it had to be nearly perfect. So, at the end of the term, who do you think produced the best photographs? Yeah, it was the quantity group, and it wasn't even close. While the quality group was stuck in their heads, just theorizing about perfection, the quantity group was out there taking hundreds of photos, experimenting, making mistakes, and actually learning and improving their skills. They made action easy. They focused on doing the reps, not on being perfect. And if you want a ridiculously simple way to apply this, you've got to hear about the paperclip strategy. A young stockbroker would start every morning with 2 jars on his desk. One was full of 120 paperclips, the other was empty. After every single sales call he made, he'd just move 1 paperclip from the full jar to the empty one. And he didn't stop working until that first jar was completely empty. It's so simple, but it made the process easy, visual, and satisfying, and he quickly became a top performer at his company. So this brings us to the end, and to maybe the most important question of all. Looking at your own life, what's the one tiny atomic habit, that 1% improvement, that seems small and insignificant today, but if you did it every day, would compound into something remarkable a year from now?